So it's been a minute since I actually sat down and just spoke to the camera, but I kind of want to talk about my relationship with screen time and sort of my, I guess I primarily want to talk about my Dumbphone usage over the last year and a half or so. Obviously, there's been a whole lot good, but there's also kind of been some bad, honestly. And to be real as well, I'm not that much of, a pretentious asshole to say I'm never going to touch or use a smartphone again, or I'm not going to use social media, because I definitely will. And I still do currently. This is a tech channel after all. Realistically, I might spend a week or two reviewing something because I still love smartphones and the technology, and I really do still have a passion for them, which is pretty awesome, mind you. But I've also sort of just grown to love using dumb phones quite a bit more, which is why I actually just usually typically end up back on some sort of dumb phone once I'm done sort of my review periods and whatnot. The wild thing too, actually, is that I still love social media. I'm posting this on YouTube, which is, to me at least, a social media platform. But now my usage on these social platforms do look a little bit different than they have in the past. Now, for reference, I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, where the planet was a completely different world. Plain and simple. It was totally different back then, where, people would be bored and you just have to live with it. You'd maybe throw on a cassette or a CD or a record, whatever the case is, or you'd learn a new skill from another actual human being, and maybe you pick up a hobby or two, because that's simply what people did back then. And luckily for myself, at least, some of those hobbies stuck with me even to this day, whether that's skateboarding or even video games, if you consider that a hobby. And listen, while the flippin' yellow pages were absolutely garbage when it comes down to finding businesses, or you'd use MapQuest to get around, that objectively was flippin' awful by comparison to what we have. Even the most basic of devices, even a lot of the dumb phones I talk about have some sort of navigation to them, which is awesome, mind you. And all of that combined sort of just made for a slower pace of living, I guess. And don't get me wrong, technology is flippin' amazing, which is why I have this wacky obsession with it at the same time while I abstain from using it to a degree. It's crazy, mind you, but we have the entire world in our pocket. You can look up anything you'd ever imagine in the palm of your hand, and you can do it. Most of pretty much all the filmmaking I've learned was on a tiny ass 3, 4, 5-inch screen, which is crazy to say, and I didn't have to pay for any of that education. But the flip side of that, at least, is there can be some pretty gnarly side effects for some people. For me, at least, it's sort of just being chronically online, I guess, and having the sort of expectation to just always be available 24/7. And naturally, of course, is going to be doom scrolling, which is probably the easiest dopamine hit we've never really been built to handle on the regular, I think, at least. For me, at least, there really isn't a way to kind of go back to how the world was. Not that I'd really want to be completely honest, because technology really flipping rules. I love it. Again, I keep saying that, but there's definitely a balance to be had when it comes down to technology. And what that looks like for me, at least, is using something like a dumb phone. The thing is, as well, when people talk about dumb phones and digital minimalism, all that, the mind can go straight to the extreme where you gotta quit Instagram or TikTok forever and ever, and you gotta quit all of your social applications and be isolated. That's not really the case. And while there's definitely a good chunk of people who do want to purely disconnect, I'm not one of them. And there's a lot of folks out there who really do need a certain level of connectedness. Naturally, of course, it's flipping 2026 where everything needs a smartphone, and that's sort of hard to get around. What that might look like for some people, though, is going to be using your smartphone and just deleting all the apps off your phone. I, for example, still love using my iPhone 13 mini, but I sort of dumb it down, and I'll talk about this a bit. I do delete all the apps I don't want otherwise on there, and by all means, that's an absolute incredible place to start. Now, the reason why I personally use an actual dumb phone is because I just don't want the option there for me in the first place. Honestly, I could have gotten an absolutely shitty sleep, so I'm just gonna fucking download the app and start binging. Or maybe I worked all day and I'm totally decision fatigued, so I'm just like, whatever, I'm just gonna browse for 15 minutes. That sometimes turns into an hour. And that happens to the best of us, honestly. It's a normal thing to happen, really. Either way, regardless, a lot of the times when I personally use my smartphone, those apps do end up back on my phone one way or another. And the cycle sort of repeats with my, screen time usage. Now, I did mention as well, I don't actually cut social media out of my life entirely, because I still love Instagram in particular, and Instagram threads, because I find a lot of inspiration by seeing what other creators get up to and what they've made. It's incredible to see what people have put out there on the internet, and it can be inspiring at times. And what happens for me, at least, is I have these moments where I just give myself sort of permission to check, social media on my iPad, or honestly, naturally, my computer. It's an easy way to open the browser. People forget you can use social media on a flipping computer. I personally just don't find it as addicting. I don't know, doom scroll on a computer or my tablet, but I still access it 1 to 2 times a day. Honestly, the best part is because I'm not checking it as much, as corny as it sounds, social media ends up sort of feeling special again because I'm not checking it, 50 to 70 times a day, and I'm just checking it once or twice. It has this magic to it, is the best way I can put it. So I really do appreciate that specifically. What I can say though is the first couple weeks are the toughest when you do end up using something like a dumb phone, mainly because you have this sort of natural instinct to just reach for your phone every couple minutes, or whenever your mind is bored. It's just sort of ingrained in us to just reach for that easy dopamine that we typically have available at all times. But I can definitely say after like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, that flinch sort of goes away, and then your mind ends up sort of filling the gap with other things. For me, at least, I could, play guitar for 10 minutes. I'll read a little bit of whatever book I have at the time. I might throw on literally a record, vinyl, and just listen to the music. Literally just listen to the music and sort of appreciate the artwork. And again, a lot of this just sounds super lame and corny. Of course, I realize that, but it's just actually been my reality for the last while at least. So I figured I'd share it. And while it's definitely super late, being that we're like halfway through flipping February to talk about New Year's resolutions, but I have the same resolution now as I did last year, and that's sort of just to keep trying to live a slower paced life. For me, that just means not racing from one thing to the next. I don't want to jump and feel rushed to move on to my next project. I don't want to watch videos on 2 times speed like I used to. You imagine watching flipping videos on 2 times speed. I'm watching videos on fast forward. That's what I was doing. So bringing that back down to 1 time speed has just been a low barrier to try and live a little bit slower. And I just want to exist without pressuring myself to keep up with a world that's pretty much forever speeding up. I'm just happy that I finally hit a point where I'm okay leaving my phone wherever it might be in my house, not having it at my hip to do something simple and menial like taking out the trash. Like, why the hell do I need to bring my phone to take the garbage out? That's a weird one that I would do. Or something simple like feeling like I'm missing out on the group chat. At this point, I'm comfortable enough missing group messages, and I'll just check it later. Like, it's not, that urgent that I have to check it right away. If I miss a call, and I'll call them back. And yeah, I just really like that personally. Now, I keep talking about dumb phones. When it comes down to, going into the dumb phones themselves, the first thing I'll say is that there really is absolutely no perfect dumb phone. There might be for the odd few people out there, but it's hard to find the perfect dumb phone for everybody. Really, when it comes down to it, you're pretty much always going to be missing something, which is realistically kind of the point of a dumb phone. But again, it's 2026 and people need certain shit on their phones when they're out and about, because the world is a modern world. Now, naturally, the lowest barrier to entry here is going to be the phone you already own, whether it's Android or iPhone. I personally recommend this one the first because it's just so obtainable, and it's either free or it might cost you less than $10 to set up if you buy, a specific launcher for your Android or iPhone or whatever. For myself, I have this iPhone 13 mini as my main iPhone. I literally have an iPhone Air, but I choose to use my 13 mini because it's small and doesn't, promote me to use it as much. But I just set this up with a couple words on my homepage using an app called Dumbphone. And this just takes my main apps I want to use on my home screen, and that's pretty much it. And even when I'm reviewing Android phones, I use something called Niagara Launcher, which again, similarly, is just a couple words on the homepage, and it just looks flippin' rad at the same time. So I really love Niagara Launcher for that. The only downside with, using the phone you already own is that just as there's a low barrier to getting it done in the first place, it is so flippin' easy to get your apps back on your phone, which is why it's a hard one. And there's always the argument to just have more willpower. It's like, fuck, obviously, dude, like, yeah, have more willpower. But that's like me going to, I'm going to go to an AA meeting. Like, yo, what's up, Dan? My name's Javier. You should stop drinking. Have more willpower. Like, that sounds pretty silly. Honestly, I'd be an asshole in that situation. So yeah, I guess have more willpower, but it's a silly argument, I think. But yeah, the most realistic device I think a lot of people might want to use is sort of like a pseudo dumb phone. I don't even know if you can see this here. This is something where it looks dumb as hell, dude. Like, this thing looks like it's out of the 2000s, but it's a full-on Android phone. And these are the happiest middle ground because it's not really the best device when it comes down to using things like social media, but it has all the modern apps you might need. So for myself, I got a wife and kids at home, man. I need my 2-factor authentication, daycare and school apps, all the things you might want on the regular modern day usages. That'll give it to me. But the processor on there is pretty shit. So when it comes down to, trying to doom scroll it doesn't do so well, which is perfect. Really, like realistically, it is a smartphone. Technically, it's a smartphone in a dumb phone body. So you can get all those apps if you really want it, even just for the novelty. Let's say you don't care about minimalism, you don't care about dumb phones. If you just want the novelty of this device to use as your regular smartphone, you can do that. Just being realistic, it just doesn't work as well, which is the point to be made with these. For me, at least, using those on the daily, it becomes enough of a pain in the ass that it sort of stops me from having my typical social media addictive tendencies, I guess. But they still all give me those modern conveniences I mentioned that most people realistically need. Not to mention, they look cool as hell, dude. Like I mentioned, these things look like they're straight out of the 2000s. And I even have a flip phone. I remember being pissed off at people and just snapping this bitch close. Ooh, when you close one of these, when you're mad at somebody, it is brilliant. And yeah, again, this is an Android flip phone with T9. You're not doing much texting on T9 unless you're amazing still somehow. And then of course there's going to be the absolute real dumb phones where you can pick up like a $70 flip phone that will just do calling and texting, and it might have, you know, maybe music and FM radio and all that. Those are going to be the true dumb phones, but most people, despite wanting to use them, can't really get down with them because they need all those other things I mentioned. There's a whole other level to these dumb phones, and I get absolutely shit on the internet for using a Lite Phone 3 because this thing is stupid expensive, man. This thing's like $700. That's the price of a flipping iPhone. I'm paying $700 for a phone that does less, which is what I want, mind you. But these premium dumb phones, I love them. This is what I personally use, but these just do calling, texting. Now, granted, these are technically Android phones. If you want to get into side loading and all that crap, like you can, I've got Apple Music on here. Technically shouldn't, but I do. There's a whole rabbit hole to go down, but these are as dumb as they go, but I make them work for what I like. On the regular. For the times that I do need all those other apps though, again, I just lean into my iPad mini 7 because I flippin' love the tiny ass iPad, and that gives me all the apps I might need if I have to. As much as I love these devices, there's a huge downside to them, and a lot of that's going to be things like the camera. For a lot of people, somebody will dumb down their phone, their smartphone, and they'll still have a dope ass camera, right? The second you flip onto something like this, where the camera is absolute dog shit for most people, it'll do the job. Actually, some people really like it. In the world of, you know, super sharp HDR photos off of the latest and greatest iPhones and Androids and stuff, that's flipping awesome, mind you. But a lot of the photos end up sort of looking the same sometimes online, where these sort of have a bit of a retro vibe to it, and they sort of stand out a little bit, which is sort of charming. Or they're just shitty photos depending on how bad you are with the camera. I'm pretty trash, if I'm completely honest. But what I can say is an upside to using dumb phones is that I've just been leaning heavily into my big boy camera. This is my Fuji X100 and right, I'm shooting on another big boy camera, but I love learning cinematography, videography, photography, despite still being trash. I've never really focused as much as I do now on composition and learning photography, I guess, which is a new hobby, mind you, I guess, technically, because of dumb phones. So yeah, that makes me sound like a pretentious douchebag, but it technically is the truth. So yeah, I will usually take this with me everywhere I go. And look, I know a ton of this sounds corny, lame, pretentious, all of the above, but I know there's a ton of people out there who might feel the same as me. They might feel shitty, they could feel lost, pissed off, whatever the case might be. They might be having a hard time with screen time like myself, or otherwise you're just sort of sick of seeing the news where good news is never news, apparently. Some of what makes us feel like garbage really just comes down to the hand we've been dealt, which is typically a shitty hand for a lot of people, and everything else that's sort of happening in life. And honestly, sometimes it could just be that our brains are actually just fried from constant dopamine hits and quick satisfaction. And at the same time, I really don't want to vilify social media. Social media, I have lots of friends that are in the social media space. I post on social media and it's changed a lot of lives. It really is an incredible platform. It's just hard to balance a healthy level of engagement with these platforms. And like I mentioned, I'm never just going to use just a dumb phone. I'm never not going to use social media. Next week, I'm literally going to Samsung's big ass event where they talk about the new Galaxy device, and I'm super stoked for that. But I know once I get through my review period, I'm probably just going to end up back on my dumb phone. I just really prefer how my brain works on a dumb phone. This is an absolute personal thing. Some people might find the same benefit, but maybe not. I just personally like letting my mind wander every now and then, and I've really just started truly enjoying the simple, the boring, the mundane things day to day, and simply just being okay with attempting to live a slower life. Again, slowing down over the last year and a half truly has improved my mental health, I started reading for the first time in literally 20 years. I'm enjoying exercise and bouldering like every 30-something-year-old. I'm playing games just to play games and not just make videos about them. And really, honestly, just spending more time with the people who actually matter. And the crazy thing is that last year at this time, I set myself some absolutely wild goals that I wanted to believe that I could hit these goals, but who knows if they'd be realistic. And I told myself to ride out some of this midnight motivation that we all randomly get. We're trying to go to sleep, suddenly you're flipping motivated, or otherwise this high on life that I had from, fresh using into a Dumbphone. I had this crazy, invigorating feeling about it. And wildly enough, miraculously, that huge goal that I placed for myself has actually now become a reality.